Through the decades, as music taste and production has changed, one thing that has continued to enrapture the public is details of the private lives of musicians that they adore. Across decades and genres of music, one of the most divisive aspects of pop culture icons' lives are their relationships and who they choose to marry. Three wives stand out as the most disliked amongst their husbands' fan bases: Yoko Ono, Courtney Love, and Hailey Bieber. In the 1970s, 1990s, and 2020s, pop culture-oriented media consistently scrutinized these women and their relationships. But why, across the span of genres, decades, and forms of media, does hating the wife of your favorite musician remain universal? In November of 1966, John Lennon and Yoko Ono met at her art exhibit in London. While they were both artists, the two came from very different backgrounds. John Lennon was one of the most famous musicians of the time, riding the commercial high of Beatlemania. Yoko Ono was less well known, specializing in performance-based and experimental art. They married in 1969, 2 months after the Beatles' final performance. The wedding was very private, but for their honeymoon, the couple had a bed-in, where they laid in bed in their hotel to protest for peace. Their room was open to the press, who were hungry to cash in on Beatlemania, in turn platforming the couple's pro-peace message. The rest of the relationship was less idyllic. They split up in November 1973 before reconciling in 1975. Their son was born on October 9th, 1975. 5 years later, John Lennon was assassinated. During the duration of their marriage, and even afterwards, Beatles fans have criticized Yoko Ono for many reasons. For one, when the two met at the art show in 1966, they were both already married, causing people to portray her as a homewrecker. On a similar note, people believe that she was part of the reason why the Beatles broke up, creating a division between Lennon and Paul McCartney. However, a lot of later interviews from other members of the Beatles point to a less direct cause. For example, Ringo Starr takes a passive approach, as
no, we didn't get along. We were four guys. We had rows. We've got lives, and I've got children, and the.
Also, a lot of people did not really enjoy Yoko's art, considering it too experimental. What annoyed them further was that during their relationship, Yoko and John began creating music together, which leaned more towards her niche style, the Beatles' more commercially successful rhythm. After the marriage, they released the wedding album, of which one side was just the two of them saying each other's names over and over again.
Yoko?
John?
Beatles fans are not particularly interested in this. Also, critics argue that the couple's approach to protesting for peace was an oversimplification of the complex global conflicts of the era. John Lennon responded to this criticism, especially
the way they kept picking on Yoko, and saying she was ugly and all personal things like that,
by aiming to
turn it into what we think is good use of it. If we're going to be hounded, we may as well say what we have to say about peace and things.
Although faced with similar criticisms, Courtney Love and Kurt Cobain had a very different relationship just 20 years later. Similar to the difference between Ono and Lennon, Love and Cobain had very different musical backgrounds when they started dating in 1991. Cobain's band, Nirvana, was reaching incredible levels of commercial success. Meanwhile, Love's band, Hole, was less well known outside of the LA grunge music scene. After Nirvana proved that grunge music could be commercially viable, Hole was sought after by record companies, which led to the first ever bidding war over an on-signed female band. The two married early into their relationship, February 1992, when Love found out she was pregnant. Both of them did a lot of drugs, although they attempted to go to rehab in March 1992 to prepare for the birth of their child later that month. In September of the same year, Vanity Fair released an article titled Strange Love and took a number of very public attacks at Courtney Love. By publishing some of the rumors that had been floating around the industry at the time, this article would serve as a cornerstone for a lot of the criticisms of her going forward. For one, the article discussed a rumor that Love had been the one to introduce Cobain to heroin, and also reverberates the criticism for her for continuing to use those drugs while knowing that she was pregnant. The article casts her in a cynical light as someone who, quote, always has an agenda, while Cobain doesn't and is, quote, definitely being led. When interviewed by the same reporter, Love deflects a lot of the criticisms with the belief that, quote, a lot of the anti-Courtney factions say, and she's not even pretty. Here's this new rock star, Kurt, and he's supposed to be married to a model, and he's married to me. Which was a belief that John Lennon had previously attributed to the critics of Yoko Ono. And this article led to Love and Cobain briefly losing custody of their daughter. After the death of Kurt Cobain in April of 1994, Courtney Love continued to perform with her band for a few years, while often coming under media attention for her drug use. For example, in an interview from a year later, Barbara Walters questioned her.
You are on nothing?
No.
You are on nothing today?
No.
No heroin?
My God.
Well, I'm going to ask you all the questions that people think. No more heroin?
No,
Finished?
No.
Prozac?
No. Stop.
Prescription drugs?
Didn't work. The Prozac didn't.
With the popularity of social media, the relationship between Hailey and Justin Bieber have been documented and commentated on a bit differently. They first met in 2009 when Hailey's dad, Stephen Baldwin, brought her backstage. Justin went on to date Selena Gomez, who was popular among Justin's fans, including Hailey. Justin and Selena had a very on and off relationship where, in the gaps, Hailey's name was often present in rumors about who Justin's newest girlfriend might be. When Selena and Justin finally broke up in 2018, Hailey and Justin became engaged just a few months later, in July of the same year. They married in September. The quickness of this turnaround from Justin's breakup with Selena to his marriage to Hailey made a lot of fans question how committed he was to either one of them, and how close Hailey might have been to him while he was still dating Selena. Since then, there have been a number of micro-scandals, such as when Justin unfollowed Hailey on Instagram, his account was hacked, or when Hailey liked a TikTok criticizing Selena's photo shoot with current husband Benny Blanco. These are just a few of the social media controversies regarding their relationship. It would take forever to pick apart every nuance since everyone involved has nearly 2 decades of a digital footprint.
A dad, I'm a husband. You're not getting it. It's not clocking to you. It's not clocking to you that I'm standing on business, is it?
Partially because there's so information to dig through, the Bieber's relationship has attracted the analysis of many social media commentators. One of the most prominent narratives about Hailey Bieber is that she somehow conspired her way into dating Justin. She's also accused of being a nepo baby because her dad was already well known and established in the industry. Critics argue that she was just a crazed fangirl who happened to have connections and used those connections in order to get to Justin, with the ultimate goal of being in a relationship with him. So why do people care so much? The 3D compass of why do people hate the wife of their favorite musician might be able to offer an explanation. On the x-axis of the spectrum is misogyny. This is the most obvious explanation, and it could play a role in some fans' reasons for hating. Part of this includes hating on the physical appearance of the woman in question, as was called out by John Lennon and Courtney Love. The y-axis is parasocialism. Some people develop parasocial relationships with their favorite artists and often imagine themselves in a relationship with them. This could explain a lot of the criticism of Hailey Bieber, since a lot of Justin's marketing pitched him as a teen heartthrob. His fans could feel jealous of her and believe that they should be in a relationship with him instead. The z-axis is a bit less obvious. It represents the fans who experience a dissonance between their values and the values of the artists they listen to. Since some of the fans of the Beatles and Nirvana might have had more conservative values and believe that John Lennon or Kurt Cobain shared those same values, the artists' marriages to their respective wives demonstrated that their values didn't align. Yoko Ono and Courtney Love were both outspoken about women's rights, so their relationship symbolized to fans that their husbands might have had similarly progressive ideals. This feeling of dissonance or separation fans took from this might have been expressed as hate for the musicians' wives. Additionally, people who saw Justin Bieber as a down-to-earth person, or similar to them, might have been put off by his marriage to the daughter of a celebrity. Regardless of the reason, which likely can be placed somewhere on the spectrum, the hate and criticism demonstrate how a lot of people become disconnected from the pop culture they consume. When people constantly consume music as a product, they risk falling into the trap of viewing the individuals behind it as producers instead of as humans.